So that trade that just played out in the intro is actually the only trade I've taken on the XFAs this week, boys. So, I mean, that's all for the XFA, that we literally had that one loss, one micro, dead small, $41.74 lost. Not really that bothered. This was again another real difficult week. I did have a trade entry on Thursday that was a very tricky entry, so I was like debating getting. I was like, do I do it, take it, do I not? But I didn't end up taking it. It would have been a win had I taken it, but it was a very tricky entry. It was one of these 930 entries with the 2022 model, where for a short, the high is allowed to get taken out because of the 930 volatility, but then as long as you wait for the candle to come back down and close within the fair value gap that you're entering on, you can still take the trade. But I am very inexperienced when it comes to those specific entries with the 2022 model. I'm trying to get more experience with them, obviously. But yeah, that was not a trade that I took this week, although it could have been. So that's all for the XFA. I did, however, take a trade on a combine that I do want to break down. So on Friday's price action, I took a short in this big rundown. I was actually looking to get long below the sell side liquidity we had, but I obviously didn't end up getting long because price decided it just wanted to melt. So I thought I'll try and get a little scalp move down towards the top of this daily fair value gap. So what I'll do is I'll kind of break the trade down with the charts here, and then we'll watch the trade play out live, as I have got the recording of that as well. So on Friday's price action, if I drop into the 15-minute chart, we had these relative equal highs right here. As you can see, these are very smooth highs here, this high and this high. Very smooth. Obviously, price is going to want to upset that, and that would be potentially be an opportunity for a short with a bearish daily bias. I was bullish on this day, so I did trade against my bias on this combine, but by the time I was trading short, obviously I was convinced that we were going down for the day. I wasn't trying to short on a day where I thought we might go up. What was a really clean reaction today was the reaction we had off of this daily SIBI high. So if I go onto the daily chart, that is the high of this bearish fair value gap from the 18th of December. We actually have been respecting it with the daily candles the entire week. So like the entire week, this was kind of in the back of my mind, like, okay, we haven't managed to close above that daily bearish fair value gap. So that could potentially mean that we are due a retracement, and we had this unfilled fair value gap to the downside, which we reacted off on Thursday. So, like, I was honestly expecting us to go up from here after that really nice reaction from the midpoint of that daily fair value gap. Obviously, we ended up tanking lower. So, yeah, we opened, before we opened, we tapped that daily SIBI high and reacted nicely there, and then opened and just melted off. Now, we had this sell side here, which was where I was looking to get long. I wanted to see a sweep below these equal lows, and then obviously see my 2022 there. That didn't happen, obviously. If that did happen, I would have targeted high of the day pre-market, and then we had equal highs up there, which I would have found as a nice target for the Friday. That didn't happen, so I had to basically switch my bias when I was convinced we weren't going higher on the day. We then formed the first presented fair value gap, which you will see in the recording. I basically draw out this fair value gap first. I draw out this fair value gap here and highlight it as the first presented fair value gap. There is a reason for that. I did see this smaller one, but I had a little peek at ICT's Telegram, and basically he highlighted this one as the first presented fair value gap. So I was a bit confused because I saw this smaller one, but I just took what he said as the first presented fair value gap to be the right one. But then basically he did outline later that his eyes struggled to see that this is actually a fair value gap here. So even though it's a very small one, it is still the first presented fair value gap. So I did end up treating this one as the correct fair value gap. We reacted nicely off of that, broke down, and then I shorted from this fair value gap on my combine account. So as you can see, this is why I include the volume imbalances in my fair value gaps, because as ICT teaches, because if you were trading fair value gaps with just wick to wick and not including volume imbalances, I never would have got filled on this entry because it just tapped up into the volume imbalance. So basically what I was wanting to see at this point, after we'd come so low and not displaced really above any highs for my 2022 model, and the way we reacted off the first presented fair value gap, everything told me we're going to continue to go down. And we had in very close proximity to this London low, if I just toggle my new week opening gaps, new day opening gaps, we had this new day opening gap, which made sense for for us to draw down to below the London liquidity. And then we also had Thursday's wick on the daily chart overlapping pretty much with the daily fair value gap high. So for me, it made sense if we would sweep this London low. It made sense for me that price would want to come and tap the high of this daily fair value gap before going higher. I did think it would go higher. Obviously, it didn't. Melted off for the rest of the day, but this was the move that I caught, was this trade here. So let's watch the trade breakdown, and I will do a little voiceover of anything that comes to mind as well. One thing I do want you to pay attention to, because it's kind of be the theme of this video, is watch how I manage my stop loss. Even though price is banging around a lot and is doing all this stuff and retracing a lot, I stick to my rules. I don't manually exit the trade, and I adjust my stop loss accordingly to my rules. So that's the main thing I want you to take away from this trade recording, is my rules are once 50% of my target is reached, I reduce my stop loss by 25%. Once 75% of my target is reached, I reduce my stop loss to break even and cover costs, etc. And I stick to those rules because that is my model. That is what I want you to take away from this recording as we watch it. So let's get into the video. So at this point, my stop loss has been moved to break even because the 75% of the range has been hit. And now no matter how much price comes back up, I will continue to keep my stop loss at break even. I won't manually exit the trade because that would be against my rules. I do trail it slightly into profit as the trade plays out a bit more. I'm basically waiting for an intermediate term high on the 1 minute chart to form, which you'll see in a minute. We basically have a price run that creates an imbalance, and that imbalance gets filled and then runs to take profit. When that high that creates an imbalance, that high becomes an intermediate term high. So for me, when intermediate term highs are formed in a short setup, intermediate term highs should not be taken out unless I'm wrong. So I'm able to move my stop loss slightly more into profit when that happens. So here's that intermediate term high that's formed because it's created that imbalance. Obviously include the volume imbalance. And then move my stop loss to a bit more in profit, so it's just above that intermediate term high that's formed now. So yeah, that's everything that happened this week in my trading. Wasn't a massively eventful week. 2 trades, 1 combine trade, 1 XFA trade. This XFA account I'm going to be using 1 micro, very small risk until I can recoup these losses that I've been experiencing the past couple of weeks. They haven't been massive losses, but they have been losses, so I need to recover them before I start to go back up to my higher risk where I can make like the real money. And obviously we have that other combine now that balance is at about 52,000, so that'd be nice if we can get that trade, that combine account passed soon, because then I can add it to my current funding accounts, obviously increase my profit potential. But yeah, that's everything from me this week. A little rundown of next week. We have no news on Monday and nothing later in the week that would cause me to want to trade on the Monday with no news, like an NFP week, FOMC week, CPI week, anything like that. So Monday is not going to be looking like a decent trading week for me. I'll still be watching it, but I won't be thrilled about taking any, I won't be jumping at the charts basically to try and take anything. But the rest of the week does look pretty solid based off the economic data. So yeah, hopefully we can get some nice winning trades this week to finish Feb. Obviously still green overall in the month, not like a massive green, but green is green, right? So yeah, I'll leave this video there. If you're going to be trading this next week, then I will wish you good luck and good trading. Catch you later, boys.